The air in the lobby of Venture Point Partners was a physical thing, a pressurized cocktail of ambition, expensive cologne, and pure, undiluted greed. It was IPO day for Apex AI, and its king, Marcus Thorne, held court. He was a man carved from confidence and venture capital, his smile a weapon that had charmed billions out of skeptical investors. Ilara Vance stood apart from the spectacle, a still point in the swirling chaos. Dressed in a simple, dark hoodie and jeans, she was a ghost in the machine, her eyes fixed on the massive digital ticker that dominated the far wall. It displayed Apex AI's anticipated share price, a number climbing with frantic, virile energy. Marcus, surrounded by his coterie of yes-men and sleek PR handlers, was performing for the assembled journalists and rival financiers. He gesticulated, explaining the world-altering potential of his AI, his voice a booming baritone designed to captivate. "We're not just selling a product," he declared. "We're selling the future itself." He took a celebratory swig of his cold brew coffee and, turning to drive his point home, slammed directly into Ilara. The bitter liquid erupted from the cup, drenching the front of his pristine, custom-fit white shirt. A dark, ugly stain spread across his chest like a wound. The lobby fell into a stunned hush. Marcus's face, a moment ago alight with triumph, contorted into a mass of pure rage. His eyes locked onto Ilara, the nearest and most convenient target. "You!" he snarled, his voice cutting through the silence. "Watch where you're standing. Are you even supposed to be in here? Or are you just some intern here to gawk at the real players?" He didn't wait for an answer, already turning to his horrified PR lead, a woman named Chloe. "Get this cleaned up and get her a pass or something before she trips over a server rack and kills our valuation." Chloe, eager to please, swiftly produced a bright yellow visitor badge from a nearby desk, her lips pressed into a thin, condescending smile. She clipped it to Ilara's hoodie. "There you go, sweetie. Just stay out of the way, okay? The tech in this room is probably worth more than your student loans." A few nervous titters escaped from Marcus's team. Onlookers shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Phones, sensing blood in the water, were lifted discreetly, their cameras beginning to record. Ilara said nothing. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't react to the badge. She simply looked at Marcus, her gaze not angry, but analytical, as if she were studying a fascinatingly flawed piece of code. The stain on his shirt, the fury in his eyes, the sycophantic smirks of his team, it was all just data. She reached up and calmly unclipped the visitor badge, setting it down on a nearby console with a quiet, deliberate click. Marcus, seeing this act of defiance, felt his anger boil over. This nobody was embarrassing him on the most important day of his life. He took a step closer, his voice dropping into a low, venomous growl meant only for her. "You have no idea who you're messing with, little girl. One word from me, and security will toss you out onto the pavement where you belong." The tension in the lobby was a live wire, crackling and spitting with potential energy. Marcus Thorne, his chest still damp and stinking of coffee, tried to regain his kingly composure, but the stain had become a metaphor, a visible flaw in his perfect facade. Ilara Vance remained an unreadable statue, her silence more unnerving than any outburst. As Marcus and his flock moved toward the sanctum of the main conference room, the inner circle where the final pre-IPO blessings would be given, Ilara moved to intercept. She didn't block his path, but simply appeared in his periphery, forcing him to acknowledge her. "Mr. Thorne," she said, her voice calm and level, devoid of fear or anger. "Before you go in there, you need to address a critical data integrity issue in your prospectus. Section 4.2, the user engagement metrics. They're artificially inflated by accounting error in your backend architecture." Marcus stopped dead, his team piling up behind him. He let out a sharp, incredulous bark of laughter that echoed through the now silent lobby. "A data issue?" he repeated, projecting his voice for his audience. "And you're a tech expert because you know how to use an iPhone? Let me guess you took a coding boot camp." He turned to his CTO, a nervous man named Ben. "You hear this, Ben? The intern here found a bug you missed." Ben forced a weak chuckle. "Impossible. Our systems are airtight." "See," Marcus said, turning back to Alara with a triumphant sneer. The adults have it handled. Now, why don't you make yourself useful? Run along and fetch us some real coffee. That, at least, is a job you can't mess up. His team erupted in genuine laughter this time, the tension breaking in a wave of collective mockery. A financial journalist near the door tapped furiously on his phone, lip tweeting the scene. Apex AI CEO Marcus Thorne schooling a know-it-all intern on her place. Confidence is high. IPO day Apex AI. Alara didn't look at the laughing faces. Her eyes remained fixed on Marcus, and for the first time, a flicker of something, not anger, but profound, weary disappointment, crossed her features. It was the look a master gives a student who has failed the simplest of tests. She slowly reached into the pocket of her hoodie and pulled out a phone. It wasn't a flashy latest model device. It was something sleeker, more custom, all matte black ceramic and silent functionality. Marcus rolled his eyes. Oh, calling your mommy to come pick you up? Probably for the best. His PR lead, Chloe, smirked. She's probably checking her Instagram followers. But Alara ignored them. She lifted the phone to her lips, her voice a whisper, yet the 5 words she spoke were perfectly enunciated, cutting through the residual laughter like a scalpel. Initiate Blackstone Protocol. Authority, Vance. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The only sound was a low, corporate hum of the ventilation system and the distant ring of a trader's phone. Marcus Thorne's smirk returned, wider and more cruel than before. Ooh, a protocol, he mocked, making air quotes with his fingers. Is that the secret code for ordering avocado toast? Very impressive. But the mockery died in his throat. It was strangled by the sudden, sharp gasp from his chief financial officer, Robert, call me Bob, Davison. Bob was a man in his 60s, a veteran of a dozen IPOs, his face a roadmap of market crashes and bull runs. That face was now the color of old ash. His jaw was slack, his eyes wide with a primal, financial terror as they darted from Alara to Marcus and back again. Marcus. Bob's voice was a dry rasp. He clutched at Marcus's sleeve, his hand trembling. Her name, she said, Vance. Before Marcus could process this, the world changed. The massive, floor-to-ceiling digital ticker at the end of the lobby, which had been a vibrant green with Apex AI's triumphant ticker symbol and soaring projected numbers, flickered. A collective, confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Then, the screen flashed once, twice, and flooded into a violent, alarming red. A stark, white headline from the Bloomberg terminal feed scrolled across the bottom. Each word a hammer blow. Breaking. SEC issues immediate halt on Apexi Apex. IPO pending investigation into financial disclosures. Lead underwriter Orion Holdings withdraws. Full syndicate collapse imminent. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the sound of $3 billion in expected market capitalization evaporating into digital dust. The sound of dreams of instant millionaireships shattering. The journalist who had been lip-tweeting fumbled his phone, the device clattering to the polished concrete floor. Marcus stared at the screen, his brain refusing to decode the information. No, that's a glitch. Bob, that's a glitch, right? A server error. He whipped around to find Bob, but the older man was backing away from him, pointing a shaking finger at Alara, who stood unmoved, her custom phone still in her hand. Thorne, you fool, Bob whispered, his voice cracking with panic. Do you know who she is? Do you have any idea what you've done? She's not an intern, she's... The lobby, once a temple of ambition, had become a morgue for financial aspirations. The red glow from the ticker painted every face in hellish shades of panic and shock. Marcus Thorne's mind was a scrambled mess of denial. This was a hack, a short seller attack, a nightmare. Anything but the consequence of his own actions. Bob, what are you talking about? Marcus demanded, his voice shrill. He grabbed his CFO by the shoulders. Who is she? A reporter? A government spy? Bob Davison shoved him away, his fear transforming into fury. She's Alara Vance, he hissed, the name exploding in the quiet room. The V in Orion's venture capital arm. The Vance in Vance Klein Partners. She's their silent partner, you arrogant idiot. The one who funded our series, when no one else would touch us. The revelation hit the crowd like a shockwave. Whispers turned into exclamations. Orion Holdings wasn't just a lead underwriter. It was the architect of the entire deal, the 800-pound gorilla whose withdrawal was a death sentence. The silent partner was a legend, a reclusive genius known for her preternatural eye for tech, but notorious for her absolute refusal of the spotlight. Marcus's eyes snapped back to Alara. The hoodie, the jeans, the calm. It wasn't a lack of status. It was a level of status, so high she no longer needed to dress the part. The world tilted on its axis. The king realized he was standing before the empress he never knew ruled his world. His arrogance shattered, collapsing inward into raw, undiluted terror. He stumbled toward her, his hands held out in a pleading gesture. "Miss Vance, Dr. Vance, I didn't recognize you." The words were pathetic, feeble. Alara finally spoke, her voice still quiet, but now it carried to the pin-drop silence like a judge's gavel. "That is the only thing you've gotten right today, Mr. Thorne. You recognize the title, but not the person. That fundamental failure of perception is why your IPO is now a cautionary tale." As if on cue, the double doors to the main conference room burst open. Silas Pope, the managing partner of Venture Point Partners, stood there. He was a man known for his unflappable cool, a former ice hockey goalie who blocked billion-dollar crises for a living. But now, his face was a grotesque mask of panic and fury. His eyes scanned the room, ignoring the crowd, ignoring the red screen, and locking directly onto Alara Vance. He began striding toward her, his polished shoes clicking a frantic, desperate rhythm on the floor. "Alara," he choked out, his voice breaking. "My God, what has he done?" Silas Pope, the titan of Venture Point, looked like a man who had just seen his entire fortune burn. He stood before Alara Vance, not as an equal, but as a supplicant. The power in the room had completely inverted. All eyes were on them, every phone recording the downfall of a king and the rise of the true power. "Alara, please," Silas begged, his voice a raw whisper. "We can fix this. The SEC halt, the syndicate, we can reassemble it. We can issue a statement, blame a communications error. Just name your terms. Anything." Marcus Thorne watched, paralyzed, his future unraveling in real time. He saw his name being scrubbed from tech magazines, his penthouse, his private jet, all of it turning to ash. He took a staggering step forward. "Please, Dr. Vance," he implored, his voice thick with tears. I'll get on my knees if you want. I'm sorry. It was the stress, the coffee. I mean it." Alara ignored Marcus as if he were background noise. She kept her gaze on Silas Pope, but she raised her voice, ensuring every shareholder, every journalist, every future case study would hear her decree. "The terms are not for negotiation, Silas. They are for implementation." She began to count them off on her fingers, her tone that of a surgeon listing procedural steps. 1. Marcus Thorne is removed as CEO of Apex AI, effective immediately. The board will vote him out before market close today. 2. The entire Apex AI C-suite, her eyes swept over the now pale faces of Ben, the CTO, and the smirking PR lead, Chloe, will undergo a mandatory 6-month ethical leadership program, certified by an institute of my choosing. A wave of gasps and murmurs swept the room. Silas nodded frantically, pulling out his tablet to take notes. "Yes, of course. Anything else?" 3. Alara continued, her voice hardening. "The Apex AI board will be immediately restructured. It will be composed of 50% independent directors, each and every one pre-approved by me. 4. The company will publicly release its full diversity, pay equity, and internal complaint data for the next 5 years with third-party audit." She paused, letting the scale of this transparency sink in. It was a death sentence for the bro culture Thorne had cultivated. "And 5, she said, delivering the final blow, the IPO will not be rescheduled until a full, independent, and public audit of the company's internal culture is completed and published. No secrets, no NDAs." Silas Pope didn't hesitate. He was saving his own skin now. Agreed. "All of it. Consider it done." At his signal, Two stern-faced security guards who had been stationed at the door moved with purpose, but they didn't head toward Alara. They walked straight toward Marcus Thorne, the head of security, a man Marcus had hired himself, spoke with cold formality. "Mr. Thorne, you need to come with us. Now." The sight of Marcus Thorne being escorted from his own victory party by security was a tableau of utter ruin. His shoulders were slumped, his head bowed. The once proud king was a prisoner in his own kingdom. The crowd parted for him, not with awe, but with a mixture of pity and morbid fascination. As he passed Alara, he stopped, forcing the guards to halt. He looked up at her, his eyes red-rimmed and pleading. "It was just a joke," he whispered, the excuse as pathetic as it was predictable. "I was stressed. It was the biggest day of my life." Alara took a single step forward. The room held its breath. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She simply stated a new, immutable law of physics. "Your stress," she said, her voice soft yet carrying to the far corners of the lobby, "cost your company its future. My composure cost you $3 billion in market cap. Remember the difference." It was a final, devastating calculation. The cost of his arrogance, quantified. The guards tugged at his arms, and Marcus Thorne, broken and defeated, was led away through the glass doors, disappearing from the world he had taken 10 years to build and 10 minutes to destroy. Alara turned back to Silas Pope and the shell-shocked remnants of the Apex AI team. The red glow of the ticker still illuminated their stunned faces. She surveyed them all, the yes-men, the smirkers, the silent accomplices. "Arrogance is a liability this industry can no longer afford," she stated, her words echoing in the cavernous space. "Let today be the line in the sand. Underestimate no one. The quietest person in the room often holds the loudest power. The audit begins Monday." She didn't say goodbye. She simply turned and walked toward the exit. The crowd of financiers, journalists, and tech elites parted for her, as if for a head of state, a silent river of respect and fear. She pushed through the main doors, stepping out of the pressurized tomb of greed, and into the anonymous hum of the city. Behind her, she left a multi-billion-dollar empire in ruins and a powerful, expensive lesson echoing in the silence. The lesson was simple and it was final. Know who you're talking to.